Welcome to Heartland Dual Sport. In today's video, we're going to be giving you a brutally honest 1,400 mile review on the 2022 KLR 650. So let's get to the video. Again, welcome to Heartland Dual Sport. In today's video, we're going to be doing a full review, 1,400 mile review on the 2022 KLR 650. We do have the adventure model, non-ABS. For starters, this isn't going to be a real short video. I'm going to try to keep it condensed and stay on topic, but I do want to start out with this. We will be doing a giveaway, so stick around to the end to find out how you could enter in to win in the giveaway. And then secondary to that, we have started a new group. It's going to be called the Gen 3 Tribe on Facebook. So if you guys are on Facebook, be sure to check out the Facebook group called Gen 3 Tribe. One thing that I need to just make clear up front is this. We're going to be talking about things that you're not going to be seeing on other people's videos. We're going to be talking about the things they aren't telling you. And I believe I have a solution and or reason why. And we'll get to that later in the video. Over the last 1,400 miles, we've been blessed to be able to go and see and do a lot of things. We've done a lot of adventure rides, mini adventure rides, and we've been on what I would consider a long road trip that was also an answer to another question. Jeff over at Colorado Dual Sport had asked me about how the bike handles on a long road trip. So we've got that behind our belt as well. And I feel like with 1,400 miles on the bike, we've been able to do a lot of things, riding everything from gravel roads, sandy, loamy dirt roads, to blacktop, to just like we're doing now. This is just an old back road here in East Texas, and that's part of the fun. From the ground up, we're going to talk about the tires. The tires that come on the KLR are pretty decent tires for what they are. Again, we've had these tires in everything from dirt, sand, gravel, blacktop, and we've also done a little over 100 miles or more in the rain. And on the blacktop in the rain, these tires actually held up great. So I was impressed with that. I've been on some tires in the past where you get out in the rain and on the blacktop they're a little bit slippery. I was really pleased with how well these held the ground. I think at one time I got up to about 75 miles an hour, and I know that was dumb. So anyhow, that's going to be it on the tires. As we keep going up, we're going to talk about the suspension. The suspension on the KLR 650 is far superior than the previous generations. And when I say that, you've got a lot of adjustability in the suspension. And when you hear other people talking about the suspension and how it's kind of blah or maybe not that good, I think the one thing that you have to kind of keep in mind is how much weight are you packing on your bike and what are you doing with your bike. But from the factory, you can load a sack of dog food on the back of your bike. You can have a passenger on the back of your bike, and you can go do quite a few things without worrying about your bike. And just, my goodness guys, look at this. Ain't this beautiful? That's why you carry a fishing pole with you. Okay, sorry about that. I get sidetracked. My goodness, my lands, look at that. Is that not beautiful? Sorry about that, guys. I just love this kind of stuff. I can't help it. What a beautiful place to be. Alright, so back on topic, the shocks. The rear shock, as you well know, is adjustable. The front shock is much stiffer than years past, so you don't have that nosedive like you would have. Now here's what I can say after loading my bike up with the camping gear and driving to Oklahoma and back, which is a little over 650 miles. I never once bottomed out. The suspension is a little soft. So here's what I'm going to say. If you're one of the ones that are going to be trying to do a BDR with this bike, and you're going to be doing having it loaded down and doing the BDR, you're probably going to want to look into some sort of solution. My buddy Mike in Mustang back in Oklahoma, yeah, I think he may have even moved, but last time I had him do shocks, he redid the shocks on my DRZ, he redid the shocks on my Africa Twin, and if I lived in Oklahoma, I might have him redo the shocks on this, simply because it was affordable for him to do it. He could do new springs, progressive springs, change the oil, revalve, and adjust, same on the rear shock, and it wouldn't be more than $300 or $400, maybe 500, I don't remember, but that's pretty affordable in my mind. Now I know there is some manufacturers out there that do the springs and stuff like that, and that may be something else that I may look into, but for the time being, the way the bike comes straight from the factory, you really don't need that. It's just kind of a nice, maybe optional upgrade if you're going to be riding hardcore. Again, the factory shocks, I haven't bottomed out doing any of the gravel roads or the back roads or the, my goodness, is this beautiful or what? So anyways, I haven't bottomed out. Alright, so we're keep on going up the bike. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the lights. The lights on this bike that come from the factory are absolutely amazing. And then you factor in, they've got the fog light switch, the fog lights and the hog lights, the wildlife lights, depending on where you are at, what you're going to call them. I'm just calling them fog lights. They work great. They are really bright. I've ridden this bike, like I said, I've been commuting back and forth to work, so there was a lot of times where I was riding in the morning before the sun came up, and I was staying till closing, so I was riding home in the dark, and the lights on this are phenomenal. They're actually better than my Jeep, so keep that in mind. That is a major upgrade over previous generations. Now then, some of the electronics that come on the bike, as you can see, I've added an additional little charger plug over here, and I did that because I don't know what the amps are in the stock one, and I don't want to air up my tire and blow the fuse on that and that thing be hidden back in the dash like the one on the Africa Twin was, because that was actually ridiculous. Man, this is just absolutely beautiful, guys. Sorry about that. I get excited. I love the wildlife, I love the scenery, and you just can't hardly talk about the KLR without talking about adventure. This bike screams adventure. So next up on the list, we're going to talk about the fuel tank and fuel capacity. It's large enough that you're going to want to get off and stretch way before you need to stop and get gas. The fuel mileage on this, I've been averaging between, say, 45 and a little over 50 miles a gallon. And when you consider it's almost a 6-gallon tank, or as some people are saying it's a 6.1 gallon tank, you got a lot of fuel range. The one thing that I'll point out when comparing this to like my DRZ, the fuel range on that was about like David's bike. About 90 miles into a trip, you're looking for a gas tank or carrying a roto pack. That's one of the nice things about this bike, is the extended fuel range, and that again goes back to what I was saying. It just screams adventure when you're talking about you don't have to carry a roto pack, you don't have to worry about the fuel. You're going to be able to go a long way. Even if you rode to Alaska, I know there's some long jaunts in between fuel tank spots, and you might have to carry a tank there, but otherwise, for the most part, anywhere in the United States, you're going to want to get off your bike and take a break, and there's still not going to be a worry about how much fuel you have. Now, that brings us up to one of the next points that I want to talk about on this bike, and that is the weight of the bike. As you can see, we're very well planted. We're doing a ride right now. The wind's blowing on average about 10 mile an hour, 12 mile an hour gusts today. That extra weight on this bike makes this bike handle on the road so much better. You're not getting whipped around or blown around in the wind. So again, that in my mind, that's another thing that just makes it that much better when you're talking about the weight of the bike is not always detrimental. Sometimes it's actually a huge perk. And I think that's one thing that most people never really talk about, is they don't talk about the weight advantage. So when you're out riding these roads and say you have to ride an hour or so to get wherever it is you're going, maybe you're wanting to ride an hour to a lake like this and go camp out for the weekend, your ride there is going to be so much better because of the weight of this bike. The weight of this bike makes it just makes it that much better, a more roadworthy bike. Now, with that said, the next thing we'll probably want to discuss is the actual speed. I've noticed that this bike does real well in that 65 to 70 mile an hour range. Once you get over 75, you start feeling a little bit of vibration, and it just kind of gets a little worse over the 70 mile mark, which for me, I'd rather be doing stuff like we're doing right now, where we're just taking a nice casual ride around the lake and just looking at the sights. We're doing 50 miles an hour. Again, it's a windy day. As you can see, we're not getting blown around. So that brings us up to one of the next points, the windscreen. The windscreen on this bike is far better than previous generations. You're going to hear a lot of people complaining about the windscreen. The windscreen is not that bad. Now, if you're coming from a big bike, you're not going to like this windscreen. If you're coming from a DRZ or even like the Honda, the 300L or the DRZ, this windscreen is a lot better wind protection than those bikes have, because they really don't have a windscreen on them at all. This one, I would say the wind hits me right about the face area. I'm 6 foot, and it does a good job protecting your chest for the most part. When you hear people talk about buffeting, I'd like to just comment on that real quick, because I'm not really seeing that in the other videos either. I'm not seeing the buffeting, and to me the buffeting is where your head's getting shaken like almost violently at times, especially if you're riding in wind. When I was on the Africa Twin and me and Steve was going across that Mississippi line on our way out to March Moto Madness, I was getting significant wind buffeting. What I would say I'm getting in this is actually wind. I wouldn't call it wind buffeting. I'm just saying you're going to get a lot of wind on your helmet. It's not blocking the wind off your face. You can probably hear the wind noise in the microphone, and I'm doing that on purpose because I want y'all to understand the windscreen in my mind is more of a deal that will help push some of the bugs and dirt away, but it's not going to protect you 100%, not with the way it comes. Now, my theory on that is if you're standing up riding and something happens and you crash, some of these taller windscreens could actually get you in the throat hole. This one here is more, if you fall down and you're standing up, it's probably going to hit you mid-chest instead of the throat hole. So in my mind, that's actually a pretty good deal. I'd rather not get punched in the throat hole. One of the next things I want to talk about, and I probably should have addressed this up early into the video, and I may even splice it in, is the foot pegs. I've seen so many videos where the guys are constantly complaining about the foot peg size. The foot peg's rubber. Your foot will slip off. They bend so far down when you stand up that your foot could just literally fall off, and you're going to get to the point that you're thinking, oh my gosh, if I buy this bike, I'm going to end up riding around and lose both of my feet. I'm going to end up going home with no feet. No, you're not. The foot pegs are just fine. Now what I'm going to say is, when I was a kid, I grew up on a BMX bike, Mongoose BMX bike, and it had the big platform pedals on it, and it had the little screw type things in it, and I really liked it. So for me, since I have replaced my foot pegs, I'm going to tell you it's because I like that platform. I'm not going to tell you that it's because my feet were going to fall off and I was going to end up coming home footless. I think that's something that needs to be said. All right, guys, so let's go back to some of these guys that are doing reviews on the different parts that they're buying for their bike. Okay, I get it. You've got to sell it to your wife. Honey, I need new foot pegs. The ones I have are dangerous. Okay, she's going to say, well, certainly, honey. But here's the deal. Don't make a video saying that, scaring everybody else in the world, thinking that the foot pegs are so bad that they're dangerous and you're gonna lose your feet riding with them. I've literally got a box of junk that I ordered after watching a few videos, and a couple of them are your Rider magazine videos, and I just don't think they're being fair to the KLR. I did a lot of research before I purchased this bike, and I bought this bike on purpose because it's what I wanted. So I'm not gonna, I just can't be anything but honest in this review. As Everride would say, I'm just being brutally honest. There's nothing wrong with this bike from the factory. Alright, so what all have we covered so far? We've covered the tires, we've covered the suspension, we've covered the fuel. As y'all know, it's fuel injected, so that's nothing new or that you don't know. I'm not going to talk about a bunch of stuff that you guys already know. I just want to give you a fair and honest review of what you can expect if you buy the 2022 KLR. Now, as far as mods, again, like I said, I'm very proud and happy for all the guys who have bought this bike, and they've done a long list of mods, and I think that's awesome. But I think what you have to do if you're going to be doing videos or writing up reports or stories about the mods, what we intend to do is do just like we've historically done in the past. Like I said, I'm going to do a video soon on the mods that I've done to this bike, and that video will probably come out, and I'll do it like I used to do the Monday morning show and tell, and I'll tell you whether or not I think the mod is worth the money, and I'll give you a fair and honest review about the mod that I've done. So a lot of the stuff that I've already got on the bike I'm not really talking about, because I want to give it a chance, just like the mileage on this bike, getting time to get out and ride, just to be fair to the product. So I do have some things coming that I've ordered that I think I do want to try. But like I said, after watching so many of the reviews while I was doing my research and getting ready to buy this bike, when I went out and bought this bike, I went home, or actually the night before, because I made the deal over the phone, but that night before I went and picked the bike up, I ordered several things. One of them being the mirrors, the double take mirrors, because everybody were talking about how big a junk the mirrors are. Guys, there's nothing wrong with these mirrors. If you want the double take, say, yeah, I like the double take, I think they're cool. I ordered them. I could have saved that $150 and put that in fuel and had another camping trip and went and did a whole nother adventure. There's absolutely nothing wrong with these mirrors. If you want to replace them, that's fine. And like I said, I bought them because I thought I had to have them, and it's just not so. Another thing that I did buy is the replacing the rubber mounted foot pegs. The Rocky Mountain sells the bolt kit to where you can bolt it straight up to the frame on your bike versus the rubber mount system that they had. Again, the guys that they're from overseas, I don't remember the name of their deal, but they were doing a video, a review. Both guys were riding the KLR. The video's about an hour long, and the first thing they talked about was how crummy the foot pegs were, and they felt they were dangerous and they were going to fall off and blah blah blah, and they would bend down so much when you stood up. I don't know how much those guys weighed, but I'm telling you what, there is not, I bet you there isn't a quarter of an inch difference between standing on them and them not being pushed on at all. And that little bit of flex, I very seriously, is even feelable. Your average person isn't going to trip on a quarter of an inch bump in the road. So to me, that's just absolutely ridiculous saying that that could happen. So again, I'm just trying to help you guys understand that there's so many videos out here complaining about everything about this bike, and I'm just here to tell you I'm not seeing it. Again, like I said, the tires, they're fine. The foot pegs, they're fine. If you are like me and you like that extra width of the pedal, platform, whatever you want to call it, type foot pegs, you're going to be more comfortable with maybe an upgrade there. But I'm not going to tell you that the ones that come from the factory are so dangerous you could die, your feet are going to fall off, and you're going to come home footless. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I'm just not seeing it, guys. So again, guys, I think we've covered quite a bit. Next up on the list, we're going to talk about, since this is the adventure model, we've already talked about the fog lights and addressed that, but one of the other things that come from the factory is these pannier cases. And I don't remember who the actual, I think, well, it doesn't matter. I don't remember who's actually manufacturing them, but it's a company that makes cases for different whatever, motorcycles or whatever. I love them. I think they're great. Now, with that said, loading this bike up, and if you watch my everyday carry video, when I was riding this bike to Oklahoma and back, I had it loaded down with everything that I would need for a multi-day trip of camping, minus groceries, which I would stop and buy each day on an overnight camp trip deal anyways, because I'm not hauling an ice chest. And even at that, all you'd really need is maybe some water or whatever, because you could actually get by with just doing water. But as far as the case from the factory, we're actually going to Martin Creek Lake State Park, and that we went around the back roads on purpose. But I wanted to take y'all out here, and just another reason why this bike screams adventure. Okay, back to the luggage. The luggage holds a fair amount. It's not actually a huge amount, but I was actually surprised at how well and how nicely they do pack up. I do like the fact for everyday commuting that this luggage is actually perfect. I mean, absolutely perfect for everyday carry stuff. And I've got to get off and pay these people some money. Alrighty, $4. Give me just a minute, guys. Alright, the next thing up that we're going to talk about is going to be the hand guards. You're going to hear a lot of people complaining about the hand guards and how they don't work, they're going to flop, they're going to break off. We're at 1,400 and no, wait a minute, we're at 1,520 miles right now. These things haven't fallen off, they haven't broke off, and they haven't been a problem, to be honest with you. I really enjoy them. And I'll say this, as most of you know, sorry, I get sidetracked. You see it. Okay. As most of you know, we went through that rain on our trip to Oklahoma and back. We went through a lot of rain, and these, what I'm going to call wind guards, did a great job. My hands were the last things that got wet, and you just really can't ask for anything better than that. I don't believe. No, they're not going to stop a tree. And I know one of the big deals about bark busters, and we'll go ahead and we'll demystify some of the myth with the bark busters. The bark busters are great at protecting your levers if you do go down. These wind guards are not going to do that. Now, I think a lot of people get confused sometimes when they're thinking about the bark busters, because the name bark buster makes you think that you could run into a tree and you're not going to crash. Well, that's not the case. If you run into a tree real hard, it's still going to turn your handlebars and you're going to potentially fall off your bike. It's going to lead up to a crash. So yeah, bark busters are actually pretty awesome. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying, for these wind guards that come from the factory, not everybody needs the bark busters. I don't know that I'll be putting them on, to be honest with you. I really like the wind protection that I'm getting from these factory ones because they're so much larger as far as protecting your hands from wind and rain than the bark busters are. Now, I have seen one video where a guy put the bark buster, and we're just using that as a generic name. I don't know if he's got the tusk or what they are, but he did mount these factory ones to his bark busters, and I thought, well, that was actually pretty cool because you do get a lot more wind protection, especially if I hate the cold. I hate being wet and cold especially, so I really like the protection that these give you. So there is that. One of the next things that we need to talk about real quick, we're going to talk about the seat. The seat from the factory is pretty dang comfortable. I did a long ride on purpose so that I could answer some questions that had been asked of me about the comfort and the longevity of a long ride and how well it would hold up. Again, like I told Jeff and explained to Jeff, if you're going to ride this thing a long ways, it's probably not any different than any other bike you've been on. You're going to be ready to get off of it when you get there. And the same is true for this bike. I love the seat. The seat's been great. But when you get done, you're ready to get off after an 8 or 9 hour ride. So again, the seat, pretty dang comfortable. Would I look into a seat concepts? Maybe. Do I think you have to have it? No. What I do believe is, just like me and another guy was talking about on the Gen 3 tribe group, is you could actually get by with a pair of bike shorts. I come from riding a lot of mountain bike stuff. I obviously was never pro or even semi-pro, but I was actually, in a sense, a very good mountain bike rider. And a good pair of mountain bike shorts coupled with this seat for a long ride, I think would make for a very comfortable ride, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. That's a good looking camper. So I think that, like I say, instead of spending the money on a seat concepts or one of the other $600 or $700 seats, I think that the potential's there for curing those long ride ails on your bike. And it wouldn't matter which bike you're on. Just get you one of those padded mountain bike shorts. Wear them under your jeans, and I think you'd be just fine. Here's one thing that you got to think about when you think about the KLR. And this isn't going to be my final thoughts, but it's going to be something to think about for closing thoughts for sure. KLR, the adventure model, it has the word adventure in its name. It screams adventure. This bike is in a class of its own. You can't compare this bike to any other bike out there, because you start talking about some of the other bikes, they're just in a few to numerous $1,000 more. But straight off the showroom floor, you can get this bike, put gas in it, change the oil at your 500-mile interval, and then continue doing your maintenance like the book shows. Go out and you can have a lot of adventures. The reason that I covered so many of the things that people talked about in the mods, because I spent about $400, $500 the night before I went and picked this bike up. That $500 could have bought me a lot of fuel and went and did a lot more. I mean, this place right here, it costs $4 to get in, but I think it's only like $20 to camp here. So I mean, you not even gonna have a tank of gas. Look where my gas gauge is at. I've ridden here, it's roughly 40 miles, 50 miles to get here. You can see where my gas gauge is at, and we could have camped here, fished here. That's a lot of camping trips when you think about $500 worth of junk I didn't really need. So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. The last thing that I'm going to talk about before we do the giveaway is I want to talk about this. I'm going to quote you a quote that's often misquoted, and it goes like this: a jack of all trades, master of none. Here's where everybody kind of loses thoughts on how the quote goes, because this is where it's most often misquoted. Because here's how it really goes: a jack of all trades, master of none. However, a jack of all trades is always better than a master of one. So let that sink in, guys. This bike is the jack of all trades, and it is better than a master of one. You just can't get a better bike than this for the money. This bike is in a class of its own. And I guess all in all, what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to dispute is all the things that you're just not hearing the other guys talk about in the videos. This bike is a can-do-all type of bike, and it will perform whether you're on the highway, back roads, trails. You can go out and have a lot of fun. With that said, I want to talk about one thing that comes up pretty regular, and this is where we're going to start talking about the giveaway. Number one, you got to be a subscriber. Number one, if you want to get into the giveaway, share this video, comment down below, tell us if you do share the video, tell us where you shared it at. Number three, go over to the Gen 3 tribe and request membership over there. We're going to be building that Gen 3 tribe Facebook group up, and that's part of the giveaway. But one of the things that you hear people complaining about is this kickstand is really kind of short. It's also prone to fall over in the mud. So for the giveaway, what we're going to be doing is giving away one of these. This is laser etched. It is Gen 3 tribe puck. Throw it on the ground, get up there beside your bike. Now look, boom. Now I've got this actually mounted on a piece of walnut. The actual giveaway piece that we're going to be giving away is going to be on a piece of leather. You guys can cut out the wood, or you know what, I'll even throw in the walnut. Let's just make this a fun giveaway. Again, guys, we appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. We'd love to hear any more comments. Another way from now on, guys, or another way to reach out to us would be through the Facebook group. So if there's something that you want to see about this bike, you just have general questions, come over to the Gen 3 tribe. We've got some great moderators over there. We've got roughly 15 members right now at the time of this video, and I'd just love to talk each and every one of you into joining our group, being an active member of our group. If you love the Gen 3, or if maybe you're thinking about buying a Gen 3, come over to our group, ask us anything, because we got several members over there that can answer. It doesn't just have to be me, and if it's something that you want to see a video on, reach out to me. We'll do a video. That's not a problem. If anybody that knows me knows that I love to help people, and I'd be honored to do a video if it would help you, or help maybe a family member, or help anybody in general. That's just something that I've always loved doing. To be quite honest with you, when I started this channel, that was one of the things that I wanted to do. Is I just truly love to help people. So again, guys, we appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes. I know this was a long-winded video, but I wanted to cover everything that I could think about in this video, so the people that are looking at the KLR have a fair, brutally honest review of the bike, what they can expect and what they can't expect. This bike is never going to be an Africa Twin. This bike is never going to be a BMW. There's no sense in trying to compare this bike to them, because this is just a different bike. This bike is the KLR. It's built around the old KLR heritage. It's a bike that you could get on and travel around the world, and you don't have to worry about a dealership being close by, because there's Kawasaki dealers all over the world. You get into some of the other bike brands, and you guys that have them, you know what I'm talking about. You go out in western United States and you're going to have difficulty if you break down. I'm not dogging any bike. I'm just telling you, you have to face the realities of everything And you also have to be fair and honest with yourself what you plan to do with the bike. If you're looking for this bike to be a commuter, you're looking for this bike to be an adventure bike, and you're looking to go out and take adventures, there's just truly nothing better than this bike out there. Again, it's in a world, it's in a class of its own. I know it sounds like I'm rambling. I love the bike. Can't help it. I'm not a guy that bought this bike because I thought, hey, I'll get a bunch of YouTube views. I bought this bike because it fits me, it fits my personality, it fits my lifestyle. I'm 51 years old. I want to go out and explore. We're at a beautiful park today, and we will do another video about this park down the road. So again, we appreciate your likes, comments, and subscribes, and may you have a blessed week.